A woman in Ohio posted a photo on Reddit that broke the internet. 2 tomato plants, same seeds, same soil, same sunlight, planted on the exact same day. But one plant looked like it belonged in a jungle, 7 feet tall, stems thick as your thumb, loaded with fruit. The other barely reached her waist, pale, struggling, producing almost nothing. The comment section exploded. What fertilizer did you use? What's your secret? Her answer was 3 words: bread yeast, sugar, water. The post got flagged as misinformation. Moderators deleted it. People accused her of Photoshop, but then 50 other gardeners tried it, and they all came back with the same story. This thing actually works, and nobody can explain why a $200 billion industry won't sell it. Here's what she did, and I need you to pay attention because this gets weird. She mixed 1 packet of baker's yeast with 2 tablespoons of regular white sugar, added a quart of warm water, let it sit on her kitchen counter for 6 hours. The mixture turned cloudy. Foam rose to the top like beer. Then she diluted the whole thing in a 5-gallon bucket and poured it around the roots of 1 tomato plant. The other plant got plain water. That was it. 1 treatment. 1 time. 3 weeks later, the difference was so extreme, her husband thought she'd planted 2 different varieties. She hadn't. Same heirloom seeds from the same packet. The treated plant grew 14 inches in a single week. The untreated plant added 3. When harvest time came, the yeast-fed plant produced 42 tomatoes weighing 18 pounds. The control plant gave her 11 tomatoes at 4 pounds total. She documented everything. Photos every 3 days, measurements, fruit counts, and when she posted the results, the fertilizer companies went silent. Not a single response, not a single explanation, just silence. Because here's the part they don't want you asking. If a $1 packet of yeast can triple your harvest, why are we spending $50 on bottles of chemicals? The answer comes down to 1 word: alive. Yeast is a living organism. Once you mix it with sugar and water, it starts multiplying. Billions of cells dividing every hour, producing carbon dioxide, releasing enzymes, fermenting. And that creates a problem for any company trying to sell it. You cannot bottle a living organism and expect it to sit on a shelf for 6 months. The yeast keeps working. Gas builds up. Pressure increases. Eventually, the bottle explodes, or it leaks, or the mixture goes sour and dies. Commercial fertilizers avoid this problem by killing everything. They sell you mineral salts, dead, stable, inert, chemicals mined from the ground or synthesized in factories. No biology, no life, just concentrated NPK ratios that dissolve in water and feed plants through brute force. It works, but it's expensive, and it's missing something critical. When yeast cells die, their cell walls break apart and release phosphorus and nitrogen in forms that plant roots absorb instantly. But that's just the beginning. Living yeast also produces 2 hormones, cytokinins and auxins. These are the same growth signals plants make naturally to tell their roots when to branch and their stems when to grow. When you pour yeast water into soil, the roots detect those hormones and respond as if the plant itself is screaming, "Grow faster." Dr. Alvarez tested this on wheat and sugar beets. The treated crops yielded 20 to 30% more than untreated controls. Same soil, same water, same sunlight. The only difference was a single application of fermented yeast solution, and the results were consistent across 3 different climates and 5 different soil types. This isn't a fluke. This is reproducible science, but you won't find it in any garden center. Here's where the story takes a turn. This isn't new. Korean farmers have been doing this for centuries. They call it jadam. They ferment rice flour with sugar and let wild yeasts colonize the mixture. After a week, they dilute it and spray it on fields. The results are legendary. Crops that resist disease, harvests that exceed expectations, all from ingredients that cost almost nothing. In England, cottage gardeners ferment comfrey leaves with sugar to create a bubbling tea rich in potassium and natural growth promoters. They've been doing it since the 1800s. Soviet-era manuals from backyard gardens describe yeast ferments as emergency fertilizer when commercial products weren't available. The method works everywhere, across cultures, across continents, and yet, walk into any Home Depot or Lowe's, and you won't find a single bottle of living yeast fertilizer. Why? Because the industry can't make money on something you can brew in your kitchen for $1. Let me show you how simple this is. You need 3 things: baker's yeast, any brand, even the expired packet in the back of your pantry works, sugar, plain white granulated sugar, and warm water. Not hot, not cold. Warm enough that it feels comfortable on your wrist. Here's the process. Drop 1 tablespoon of yeast into a clean jar. Add 2 tablespoons of sugar. Pour in 1 quart of warm water. Stir until the sugar dissolves. Put a lid on loosely. Do not seal it tight. If you do, the fermentation will build pressure and the jar will pop. Let it sit for at least 2 hours. Better yet, let it go for 12. You'll know it's ready when thick foam rises to the top. That foam is proof. The yeast is alive. It's multiplying. It's working. Once the foam peaks, pour the entire quart into a 5-gallon bucket of water. Stir, and use it immediately. Water your plants at the base. Avoid getting it on the leaves. 1 treatment every 7 to 14 days. That's it. The total cost is less than $1. The results show up in a week. But let's talk about what this actually does to the soil, because this is where it gets fascinating. Yeast doesn't just feed the plant. It transforms the ecosystem around the roots. When billions of yeast cells colonize the soil, they outcompete harmful bacteria and fungi. They form a living shield that blocks disease-causing invaders. Greenhouse studies show that plants treated with yeast fermentations have fewer root diseases and recover faster from drought and heat stress. The yeast acts like a probiotic. It improves the microbial balance in the rhizosphere. And healthy soil microbes mean healthier plants. Dr. Enikwan, a plant physiologist at the University of Minnesota, calls it a biological partnership. The yeast gives the plant growth hormones and protection. The plant gives the yeast sugars from its roots. It's a symbiotic relationship that's been happening in nature for millions of years. We just forgot about it. Until now. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. If this works so well, why doesn't Miracle-Gro sell it? Why doesn't Scotts bottle it? Why isn't it on every shelf at every nursery in America? The answer is economics. A 5-pound bag of synthetic fertilizer costs $30 to $50. The ingredients cost maybe $5. The rest is profit. Packaging, marketing, distribution, brand recognition. The fertilizer industry generates over $200 billion a year globally. That entire system depends on selling stable shelf products that customers have to keep buying. A living yeast brew disrupts that model completely. It can't be patented, it can't be branded, it can't sit in a warehouse for months, and most importantly, it can't generate the margins that shareholders demand. So the industry ignores it. They don't fight it. They don't debunk it. They just pretend it doesn't exist. And most gardeners never find out. But the gardeners who do find out become converts instantly because the results are undeniable. Jennifer in Texas tried it on bell peppers. She got 63 peppers from 4 plants. Her neighbor using store-bought fertilizer got 18 from the same number of plants. Marcus in Vermont used it on cucumbers. He harvested 42 cucumbers from 2 vines. The previous year, with commercial fertilizer, he got 11. Susan in Florida applied it to her struggling hibiscus. 2 weeks later, the plant exploded with blooms. She counted 37 flowers. Before the treatment, she was getting maybe 3. These aren't paid testimonials. These aren't sponsored posts. These are ordinary people running backyard experiments and getting results that don't make sense unless you understand the biology. And the biology is simple. Living organisms do things dead minerals cannot. So what's the catch? There has to be a downside, right? Here it is. You have to make it fresh. You can't brew a gallon and store it for months. The yeast will die. The solution will go flat. You lose the living benefit. That means every week or 2, you're mixing a new batch. It takes maybe 5 minutes, but it's an extra step. And for some people, that's too much work. They'd rather buy a bottle, pour it, and forget about it. The other catch is variability. Not every soil responds the same way. If your soil is already rich in nutrients and microbial life, the boost might be modest, 10 or 15% instead of triple. If your soil is depleted, the results can be dramatic. The only way to know is to test it yourself. Start with 1 plant, measure the results, then scale up if it works. That's how science works, and that's how gardening should work too. Here's what I want you to think about. Right now, chemical fertilizers generate $200 billion a year. Food prices are climbing, droughts are worsening, and most people have no idea they can grow more food for less money using ingredients they already have in their kitchen. This isn't about being anti-science.